10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yo, what's up?
What it is.
I have the amazing, incredible Lee from the Funeral Portrait with me today. Holy shit.
I'm here. It will be fun. I am excited. I haven't done one of these in a few months, so I'll be maybe a little rusty. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Now, for any of our listeners who don't spend hours scrolling TikTok and haven't come across you or live under a rock, tell us who you are.
So, I am Lee Jennings of the Funeral Portrait. I sing. I do a lot of other weird, spooky things for the band. I don't know. I'm a cult leader, I guess you can say too.
I know our Discord's kind of turning into a cult at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So I do a little bit of everything, I guess. But that's being in a band in 2023. You got to kind of do everything. So.
Hey, what is up, Kyler? Good to see you tuning in, brother. All right, so first thing I want to ask is, what is your favorite tour snack?
Oh, tour snack. Ooh, we're starting off spicy here. So, so it's weird. Over the pandemic, I actually went basically full like low carb, so like pretty keto-ish, kind of style. So I used to just love like, any kind of candy or any kind of like stuff like that, especially like those like the Hershey chocolates with the almonds in it. That was like everyday thing while I was on tour. But since then, I eat a lot of like almonds. Almonds are pretty keto friendly, so any of the weird flavored almonds, like there's like salt and vinegar, there's the wasabi ones. Yeah, those are like super sick. So
for sure. I guess that kind of leads into my my only weird question. If you were a salad,
are you sure about that? Are you sure it's your only weird one?
Well, maybe, but if you were a salad, what kind of dressing would you have?
Oh, Caesar. It's literally all I eat. I eat Caesar dressing. Like I literally love Caesar salads. I'll get a Caesar salad everywhere. Like I'm not even joking. Like if they have a Caesar salad on the menu, probably, unless but normally I'll try and get like a side Caesar. No, Caesar for sure.
Hell yeah, I'm right there with you. All right, so what right now do you feel like is your biggest challenge, like as a musician?
Landing the tours that we want. So moving prior to the pandemic, right? So let's talk like 2019. Our band released a song called Holy Water, and it started taking off really fast. I was doing great and got the attention of some really cool managers and a booking agent and our label, and like all these things were like happening for us really, really fast. And we were like, oh, okay, well, I guess let's sign and let's do a full record and let's do this show that we've really wanted to do, like with our with the devotion ceremonies, and let's take it to the next level that we wanted the Funeral Portrait to be this whole time. Then, of course, the pandemic hit, and it kind of was a hard reset for a lot of things. A lot of the touring, there was no touring for a good year, if not a year and a half, almost 2 years, and that kind of really set us back a lot. And then coming back to touring, we started doing some smaller tours, and those are great and those are fun. But we really want to be on a little bit bigger tours and stuff that can kind of bring out a little bit more of a crowd. So just trying to land those, but that kind of comes with the idea of the online kind of stuff. Oh no,
Mm.
did we lose me? Oh, no.
You glitched for a minute, but I think you're still here.
Okay. Sick. I'm here. That's so weird. I don't know. I'm on like strong internet. This always happens to me. I don't know why. I literally have like the best internet you can have in my neighborhood. So it's like so weird. But anyways, I don't know. I think the biggest problem, this goes for every musician right now, is those tours, landing the
Mm.
tours that will really pivot your career upwards, and take you to the next level. And I think we're at that point too, is, I've spent a lot of time on TikTok, I've spent a lot of time on Instagram, that kind of stuff, and we've been growing our fan base, but now it is time for us to land one or two decent tours and us to keep growing on the road rather than just online, where we can do kind of both at the same time.
That totally makes sense. So like, what's the most memorable show that you have played, if you have one?
Wow. One that I remember. So I actually remember a few really vividly.
Mm.
Of course, there was a show way way back. I want to say way back, but in 2015, I think it was 2015, 2016. No, yeah, it was 2016. As I started the band in 2014,
Right.
it's kind of changed over the years. The sound has changed, the vibe has changed even more, and I finally feel like we have what I've always wanted to have and wanted this
Mm.
band to be. So we're like at that point now, which is great. I'm really happy. But we opened up for that band Issues, and it was like a hometown show for us. It was a hometown show
Mm.
for them. So there was like a lot of people there for us, a lot of people there for them. It was like sold out at it was one of the last shows at this legendary venue here called the Masquerade,
Mm.
at their original location. And it was one of those things that for us, it was a very special moment and something that I'll hold on forever. But then recently, we so half of the band is from Rochester, New York,
Mm.
and then I live in Atlanta, which is
Mm.
that's where the band's based out of. And
Right.
then we have another guitar player that lives in St. Louis. And I remember we played this show just recently, late last year, in Rochester, New York, and it was packed out. Like literally like 300 people were there. It was like this huge thing. And we were like, whoa, like it was like a moment that we were like, wait a second, like people actually kind of like our band. Or they're like coming to actually see us. And it was like a really cool feeling, and I think that's why moving forward, we're at that point of just being like, okay, what do we got to do? Like next step.
No, that
So,
definitely makes sense.
yeah, those are some ones that I really remember.
Okay. Let's see. All right, so let's go back. Like, what first got you like into the music scene in the first place?
Oh wow. So I grew up loving like musical theater. I did like musical theater and singing like in chorus and stuff like
Mm.
that. And so I always loved music, right? Music was just a huge thing for me. From elementary school, middle school, high school, blah blah blah. And then even past that, I just was like, okay, this is what I want to do. How do I do it though? And I've always had this problem, kind of like a learning curve of being like, how does one break through? How does one get to the next step? And
Right.
so I don't know. I got into music around like a quote actual music, right? Like rock music,
Mm.
probably when I was like 13, with like Evanescence. I think Evanescence was
Yes.
probably like my first real band I got into, which then opened the door to discovering bands like My Chemical Romance and
Mm.
AFI and Alkaline Trio and whoever else it was, Blink 182, Taking Back Sunday, Bright Eyes, like that kind of stuff. Where before that, I was still listening to music. I was listening to a lot of like 80s music, like a lot of Queen, David Bowie, and then even some 90s stuff like Nine Inch Nails and some of the more darker kind of stuff. But I wasn't really listening to them really, right? Like I was
Mm.
listening to them because my mom was listening to them or a friend's parent was, or so, there was always something, right? It was always
Yeah.
connected in some way. But discovering music, it was Evanescence that then led to like My Chem, that then led to this band and that band, or what. It just opened this whole door of just like, the rock music, for me. The Warped Tour, all that kind of stuff.
I'm super happy you mentioned Evanescence. A few of my friends give me mad shit for loving them, but I'm a lifelong.
It's weird. So it's hard because I will say I don't. The first record, of course, Fallen, right?
Right.
That was the record that did it for me. Like I revisit that record probably once a month and just jam it all the way through, and it still gives me joy, and it still brings me. I don't even say it's like a nostalgia thing. I think that record to this day holds up to most other rock records. I think that way about a lot of bands. And that was something that, like, even not to just spoil maybe a further question, but for us, when we were working on this record, I wanted that. That's what, not saying that I really don't think that our band is going to be like the biggest band in the world. I don't think that, because that's a hard thing to like think nowadays.
Right. And that's like a totally unrealistic,
but I do think that our record could stand in time, and that's what we wanted. That's why if you listen to Voodoo Doll, if you listen to Alien, because those are the only 2 songs out so far from the record, there's not a lot of, quote, what I call bleep bloops. So there's not a lot of like production stuff. There's a lot more just straight guitars, bass, drums, vocals, boom, hits you. And if there is some production, it maybe is a piano or something like that, instead of going into there's a program called Splice and trying to find like a sound effect to like go over the whole part. Like, that's just not who we are. That's not the type of record we wanted to make either.
Right.
Who knows what the next record, maybe the next record will be like a goth dance rave fucking thing. Who knows?
Please. I'll keep my fingers crossed for that.
Who knows? But for us though, that's also a point that we're trying to do, is like, we're just trying to make spooky rock music. We're not a goth band. We're not even like we're just a rock band that makes dark looking and sounding music. That's it. Like, it's not supposed to be anything more than that. And that's fine, and not dishing on any bands or artists that do that. That's just not what we wanted to do with this record.
Right.
When we wrote this record, we sat down and I was like, what are my favorite records? And we listed all of my favorite records, right? And, we were like, okay, well, this is what we want to do. Let's pick this from this. Let's pick this from this. Let's pick this from this, this and this, and then add our own spin to it with a lot of the theatrics, especially from my voice and everything. And I was like, okay, well, there we go. And then we spun it together, and that's what this record is.
That makes sense. Speaking of some of the darker stuff, whose idea was this fucking thing?
Yeah, it's pretty dark, right? So Caleb Caleb, our guitar player / pianist, he does a lot of the visual stuff with me, and he's incredible. He has some really cool ideas, and we were trying really hard to think of ideas for singles on this record. And the big thing is, of course, as everybody knows that maybe that doesn't know the band, the beginning of the 2 music videos have the what I call my little devotion ceremony speaking kind of parts, talking about not just the song, but the cult that we are creating and everything. And that is where these icons come in play. So we have our voodoo doll girl, which is the angel shot through with the arrows. And then we have our alien, who is the person standing there with the thorns around their eyes, and all white. And we wanted just something different every time that we create our music, as something to represent not just the song or whatever it is, but to the brand as a whole, and these icons will play a part in a lot of things. It's all of our merch, a lot of our merch has it in it. There's just a lot of different things kind of involved in our live show. We're actually going to have the icons come out on stage with us. And there's a lot of things that we're like slowly integrating. It just takes a little bit of time to kind of get to.
No, definitely. Yeah, the first time I watched Alien, I'm like, what the fuck horror movie did I just walk into? That's great.
Yeah, no, that's what we wanted though. We wanted it to be like, it's supposed to be bloody and it's supposed to be
Mhm.
different, because if you listen to the song, you don't really expect it from the song. You know what I mean? Like the song's just like it's a ballady kind of rock song,
Yeah.
and for me, that's not, that's a part of the whole idea of what we're trying to do is the imagery is supposed to be this super dark project in this cult, but the
Mhm.
music so much isn't as much, and that's just who we are. That's just the type of band we are.
So would it be correct to assume that there's could be a lot of like metaphors on this album? Because like Voodoo Dolls, obviously, a metaphor for drugs, Alien just for being like an outsider.
Oh yes, every single song has what I call the losing yourself to,
Mhm.
because I basically, when I started to write out what the record was turning into, because we wrote a lot of songs for this record. We wrote like 30 songs for the record,
Jeez.
and there's only 13 of them on there. So which maybe is a first here. Maybe you heard it here first. But there's 13 songs on here, but the thing with it is every song's about like losing yourself to something. So like losing yourself to drugs or losing yourself, because even Voodoo Doll, it's metaphorically, yes, is about drug addiction, but
Right.
also um addiction in any way, right? So
Right.
I have really bad OCD, right? My OCD isn't I mean, if you could see behind me, it's not really about how clean it is. It's about my obsession to things in general, right?
Mhm.
So like I have really bad OCD about like what the band is doing and about stuff like that. And it's horrible, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes it's about that, an obsession over even just a drug addiction. And same with like Alien, yes, it is a little bit more on the head of what it's singing about.
Right.
I mean, I grew up absolutely being made fun of every single day of my life.
Yeah.
I still get made fun of, my band still gets made fun of, like it's an everyday battle, of us just being like, this is just, it just kind of is what it is, like
Right.
this is
I
just
hear
who
you.
we are. Yeah. But we're all the songs kind of have a lot of little things. I mean, Holy Water is going to be on the record. We re-recorded it. And with that, like Holy Water has this thing where it's like, you know, it's uh it's about the music industry,
Mhm.
and kind of losing your voice to the music industry,
Right.
and quote religion industry, because they go hand in hand. They're very similar. There's
Right.
just as many weird weird people in the music industry as there is the religion industry. And that was kind of every song that we have on the record has some sort of thing like that.
Okay. Okay. So if you could pick just one of your songs that you had to play for someone you were trying to like a potential new fan, what song would you make them listen to?
Oh god, that's hard.
That's what I'm
So
good at, asking the hard stuff.
yeah, so it's hard because, well, there's two things there. One, I'm upset because the record's not out, and there's like
Mhm.
songs on the record that I'm absolutely obsessed with that we
Okay,
have been playing live for the past like 2 years.
mm,
But for us, I think there's a new song that's not out. It's called Suffocate City. It's my favorite song we've ever wrote. You could probably go on YouTube and type in the funeral portrait Suffocate City, and there's probably like 5 or 6 live videos of it, which is like cool to me.
that's a Bowie reference. I feel like it is.
It kind of is. There's a few things there. We were writing it during the pandemic, and it was kind of a pandemic song.
Gotcha.
Because it was about being like suffocated to death, but there was nothing that you could do about it, right? And that was COVID.
Right,
That's what I felt with like COVID. It ruined, yeah, it was. The thing is I'm not trying to sound selfish. I'm not trying to sound like anything like that, because I knew people that got really sick.
right,
Luckily, I'm very lucky that I did not, no one that I've known died or got ill for the rest of their life. But
right.
you know for me, it ruined what, so this band worked so hard to gain this momentum that we had in like 2019, and
Mhm.
then 2020 happened, and we were just suffocated. We were just like, wow, like everything we've worked on for, you know however long that was at
5
that
years.
point, 5 years at that point,
Yeah.
had just gone up in flames, and it was just like, wow, now what kind of thing, and
Yeah.
so, so we were writing, while we were writing, it was just kind of like this this is about that moment, and then finding your way
Yeah.
out and controlling your own destiny and just really like pushing through it. So Suffocate City definitely, but as a song that's out right now, um, I would probably say like Voodoo Doll. I think Voodoo Doll probably is like the most like the record where it's very like rock oriented, quote
Mhm.
rock oriented, but it has darker lyrics and it kind of has a little bit more of the edge to it. Where Alien's a little bit more of like a ballad,
Yeah.
where Voodoo Doll kind of is a ballad too, but it has more of a driving beat to it. So there's a
That
little bit
makes
of
sense.
everything. So
Well, that definitely makes sense. Let's see. All right. All right. Let's see. Is there any questions that like everyone asks you when you get interviewed and you're sick of answering it?
um I honestly not really. Maybe just the generic answer of like, oh, where did or question of like how'd the band start, like that kind of stuff. But I
Yeah.
mean that's
And
that's
I'm like,
probably the
yeah,
one
but like
that's just like
if you really want to know that stuff so bad, I'm sure the answer's on the internet somewhere. Why ask it when
yeah,
you get an hour or 20 minutes, however long to sit down with someone to ask, whatever you want to
exactly.
ask. Why ask that stuff?
Exactly. No, I agree. I mean, I think, there's a fine line of like asking too silly of a question, right? But
Right.
then at the same time breaking it with like, oh, well, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? And I'm one of those people that I can like talk and talk and talk. So which is like cool, I
Oh,
guess. Like
absolutely.
yeah, some people aren't like that. So it's just like you have to, I'm sure, like beg them to just answer your question more than just being like, yeah, that was cool. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
All right. All right. Is there a question you've never been asked before that you wish someone would ask you?
oh wow. I've done a good bit of these over the years, right?
Right.
Not as many as I would love to do,
No, understandable.
but I've done a good bit. And I think for me, a question that I wish more people would ask is I don't know. I think it's the I'm trying to think really hard because I've been asked everything. I feel like, I mean, I was asked today about which salad dressing I would be.
Yeah.
So now I got to cross that off my list. That was on my list. So no, I think for me it's the question of like what's not like what's next, but what's after this kind of thing. And I have this thing that I think about a lot of what do I do after, not after the band, but
Mhm.
kind of after um
Okay, so like if there's ever some crazy future where something happened, there wasn't a band, what would you do?
exactly. I like that,
Gotcha. That's a
and
good
that's a
question.
great question. But I'm gonna answer it for you.
All
Here
right.
we go. I probably go work at Disney World. See, for me, I love Disney World, but also at the same time, I love the idea of well, there's two things I would do. One, I'd maybe try and go and do that. But also I think I really like helping people. So
Mhm.
with music, with the funeral portrait, that is something that I love more than anything. I get so it's weird for the size of band that we are. I get a lot of messages from people being like, "Hey, your music really like it really speaks to me, and it really does this or this or this." And we have a very warm, welcoming fan base, but also
For
warm.
sure.
We as humans, our band are very warm and welcoming as well. And that's just part of who we are. I try as hard as I can to leave myself open to anybody to reach out to me as much as possible for any kind of thing that they need. I've gotten people into shows before because
Mhm.
they didn't have money or their car broke down. Like I had this fan that lives in Iowa,
Mhm.
and their car, their only vehicle that they had just moved out, broke down, and I not just posted the GoFundMe, I gave them like $50, on the
Oh,
GoFundMe and
that's
stuff.
really
And it's like
sweet.
stuff like that to me, like that's what makes a band very special and makes this all unique. And
Yeah.
I think for me, I really think for me going forward, it's way more about, um, past the life of this band, right? Which like I don't think. I mean, we've made it to like year 8 of being a band, right?
Right.
And we're just kind of getting started, to be honest, right? Because
Right.
um, the stuff that we did before, I learned so much from that, and now I kind of treat it as a completely different band. I have what I call TFP 1.0 and TFP 2.0,
Mm,
and now we're in like TFP 2.0, where it's like kind of a completely different thing, its own different thing.
yeah.
And with that, I take pride in helping people. So like I think for me, I would love to. I don't want to say I want to be like a counselor or something like that. I'd want to like help out at like I don't know, like especially like younger people. I really like helping them find who they really are,
Mm,
in whatever it may be, help their life in any kind of way possible. But I think that's where I think working something like Disney World would just be fun for me, but also you can see magical moments with people, because that to me is like why I love the funeral portrait so much, is when
mm,
I'm up on stage and I can see people smile on stage or from stage, or they're having such like a great time because of
mm.
how, what we're doing. That to me is like where it's like, oh, okay, that's what it is for me.
Exactly.
It's that magic feeling, and that's that I want to continue that, and that's, like I said, if the band broke up tomorrow, what would I do? I don't fully know, but I would definitely try one of those two things, or maybe all of it. So who knows?
That definitely makes sense. Um, okay. Have you had any like really bizarre interactions with like a fan or something? Like something just completely like what the hell just happened?
Yes, I have lots of those.
Oh jeez.
One right now. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. So, I got you good.
You did.
This was a whole setup for that.
Oh yeah.
Um, but no, so I I had one a few years ago. A few years ago. Oh Lord. I just hope I think they've disappeared since here. I really
Mhm.
hope they have. But they like online, they were like really adamant about like trying to be like, "Oh, I'm coming to this one show and like I have something for you." Like
Mhm.
like obsessive, like weird obsessive, right? Because like there's a difference between like good obsessive and like weird
Right.
stalker, like gonna stab you obsessive, right?
Exactly.
Um, so I get to the show and I'm like, everybody knows. So we have like code names of things in our group chat for, hey, I need help, I'm getting punished, or like, hey, I'm
Right.
like, help, instead of just being like help, you just say pineapple instead of, or something, and it just was this person comes up to me and I was like, I didn't know what this person looked like either, because their profile picture was not them.
Oh
It was like an
jeez.
anime character, of course.
Of course.
And I was like, this is great. I was like, I don't know who this is gonna be. There's like 50, 60 people there at this point. It's kind of early on in the night. And then all of a sudden it gets packed kind of. There's like close to 200 people there. And I'm still like, oh no, who is it? Who is it? And I'm like guessing. I'm still selling merch because I do all of our like I sell our own merch and stuff at the
Mm.
merch table and stuff. And I'm just like, oh God, what's going on? And then finally this person comes up. I was like, oh, I know it's this person. Basically, they hand me this note and then it's just like basically like bawling their eyes out. And like at first I was like, oh, kind of like
Oh.
comforting them and stuff. But then it turns into being like really creepy. I start like reading the note and stuff. And it was like
Okay.
they've been like pretending that I was their boyfriend and like stuff like that.
Oh
And
no.
I was just like, oh no, like this is really bad, like really, really bad, right?
Oh no.
Like not just fanfic, but like really like they literally were like, I'm gonna unalive myself if you aren't truly my boyfriend.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, and I exactly. I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "I don't know what to say to this. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't want to like
I would
tell
have
this.
no fucking clue how to handle that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't want to like tell this person that like, yeah, yeah. I've had a partner for like 5 years at that point. Like I was with the same partner
Right.
for like 5 or 6 years at that point, and it was like, I'm sorry, like I can't, like I literally can't for two reasons. One,
Right.
you're like they were like young too. They were like
Jeez.
younger than 18,
Oh,
and I
fuck.
was like, this is weird. Like this is weird. And thank God, like this kind of this how I handled it, right? Is I was just
Yeah.
very nice and very polite, and then kind of just was like talking to them, and then we played the show, and it was kind of closer to the ending, and I kind of kept my eyes on them, and when their parents came and picked them up, I actually took their parents to the side and just was like, hey guys, kind of explained the whole situation.
Mhm.
I was like, this is what it is,
Right.
and they were super understanding, and they were like, "Oh, we had no idea. Like they've talked about you all the time, but that was just because I thought they liked your band, not that they thought that they were actually like gonna be in a relationship with you or something one day."
Right.
And I was just like, man, like yeah, that was it was just like not okay. And thank God, like I was able to like talk to their parents, and their parents
Yeah,
were like
definitely.
super understanding, and was just like, yeah, like this is weird. Cause like online, I would just be like, awesome, so excited to meet you, or
Right.
like thanks for coming to the show or something like, or
But
that's how I
one thing
am.
if a fan is like, I fucking love you, you're amazing, I love your hair, you're cute, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother level of whoa.
There's like 7 levels, like I
Yeah.
have like different levels, and there's like a few fans every once in a while that get to that like extreme level, and I just stop talking to them.
Yeah.
Like, because it's just like, like the other day, there was one being like, "I want to get to know you," and I'm like, What does that mean? Like, get to know me?" And
Yeah,
then
what
they
does
start
that
like
mean?
asking me like super personable questions, like
Oh,
super personal questions. I'm like, "Meh." I just
no.
chop it off. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
have some of those, and that just kind of comes with the territory. It comes with the territory of not just being in a band, but it also comes with the territory of like the type of band that we are and how open we are.
Right.
Um, it kind of just comes with it, which is fine. Like I can handle it. You know what I mean? I can
Right, for
handle
sure.
whatever. I've dealt with a lot of really messed up things, while doing this, and it's just kind of part of it. But let's leave the relationship stuff out of it.
Exactly. Unless you're two band members that kiss on stage or whatever.
Exactly, which is that's all part of it. So
Oh yeah. All right. All right. What's a really surprising fact about you?
surprising fact.
Mhm.
I don't know, because I my life is like an open book. I guess I remember the first time I like really posted about like my Pokemon collection. I have like a
Yeah.
crazy collection. I think that
Yeah,
was
you
like a
posted it in the Discord the other day, and I'm like, oh my god.
exactly. So, I have that. That's kind of surprising, I guess. I don't know. Like, look at me. You know what I mean? I'm literally 6'4" in a green little like mullet mohawk thing. Like, what do you
Wait, you're
expect?
6'4"? We were discussing that the other day in the group chat, and someone said you're 5'4".
I am 6'4". I am
Oh
very
shit, you're a
tall.
foot taller than I am.
Yeah, I am very tall. I am very tall. So,
Oh, okay.
yes. Yes. I'm very, very tall. And it's one of those things that like so like Cody's like 5'4" or something. I'm literally like a whole foot taller than Cody. And then
Mhm.
like the other guys kind of range in between. Like Caleb's kind of tall, but like I definitely am the tallest. And then I also wear boots that have like 2 inches on them. It's a whole thing. So
I gotcha. All right, so you've probably been asked this one before, but I don't know the answer. So where did the band name originate?
so okay. I started a band. So I did a band called Cosmoscope before this, okay? It was basically all the same members as the original lineup of the Funeral Portrait.
Mhm.
We then started working on what was the EP that we put out first in late 2014. We were going to keep the name Cosmoscope, But the label that we were signing to was like, no, you guys should change the name. And we came up with
That's great.
like 3 or 4 names that were more us, more
Mhm.
what this band wanted to be. And the one that everybody stuck with was the Funeral Portrait. And it actually originates from this band called Opeth. They're like it's like originally started
Yeah.
as like black metal.
Yeah,
And now they're like stoner rock,
yeah, I'm not
like
sure how that
metal.
happened. I mean, I'm all about it, but
Yeah. So
yeah.
there was a record called Blackwater Park, I believe it is, and I think it's the ending track off that. But it wasn't like in honor of them or anything. It literally was because the Funeral Portrait fit exactly what we wanted. It was everything that we
Exactly.
wanted, and it was also we wanted something that was a little different. We were tired of bands like no shade towards them, but like a band that uses like Awaken in their name or
Yeah.
whatever the hell it is, like just something that was so generic at the time, and we were just like, listen, like we wanted something just a little different, and I also liked that we could do the 3-letter thing. So
Yeah.
TFP is super important to me. I think a lot of that comes from growing up loving like AFI, and like a
Mm,
lot of those like POD and stuff like that. Like a lot of those bands that like, yeah, it stands for something else, but it also like rings super well, like TFP, like really
yeah,
rings.
that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. All right. Let's see. All right. Who? Okay, if you could like collaborate with like anybody, who would your dream collaboration be?
I mean, of course, it would be like I think for me, like a dream would be like Gerard Way, right? Of My Chem. Like that'd be insane. But
Yeah.
listen, I gotta be like
Yeah.
realistically, like someone that I really think that we could do something with is I would love to do something with like Spencer from like Ice Nine Kills,
Hmm.
or like anyone from like Ice Nine or Mike or Motionless or even Blackville Brides, like something that like has something um for me, I think about artists that would not just our fans would like, but I
Hmm.
think would be really cool and different too. I really like there's this girl Mothica. I think she's like crushing it. She's like
Hmm.
super cool. There's a lot of those kind of artists that I'm just like, oh man, this would be super cool, super different as well. And I'm like all open for it because we're actually trying really hard to get like a cool feature on the record.
Hmm.
So we'll see kind of where it takes us. So
Okay. All right. So when you're not on tour, you're very involved in like your local music scene.
A good bit. I used to be way more. So
Mm.
I grew up actually working at an all ages venue here in like the suburbs of Atlanta. And I mean, I was there every single day, and then I started doing the touring thing and I stopped doing that. And then
Mm.
I'm actually here in my studio in my house and I record local bands. I still do a little bit. I probably record maybe like a band a month now. I used to be
Yeah.
very, very busy, but now a lot of people kind of record themselves.
Yeah.
And it's kind of getting a little bit harder. Local bands in general are kind of disappearing too. There's not as many local bands as there used to be. And then to take it more serious, a lot of them go to like bigger producers or songwriters or stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I've lost a lot of that over the years, but I try really hard. I think we're gonna actually go. Homer and I, or my drummer and I, or might go to a show tonight and see some friends play. So, it's all part of it.
Nice. All right. Okay, so who's like your biggest support, like as a musician? Like, was your family super supportive of you becoming a musician, or friends?
Yeah, no, so my family was always supportive about me just doing whatever I wanted to
Mhm.
live my dream and do, right? So like, um, I think they definitely I would probably just say them in general because they've definitely helped things out. Like my grandparents put the down payment on our van. Then we took kind of we do the payments. They did like the first big down
Yeah.
payment. So that way we could like go out on tour and start making money and stuff. And that was like a huge help, and I still live at home. They're very supportive. Again, like I built a recording studio in my house, and they've never been like, "Oh, get out of here." None of that, because that's just not the type of family I grew up with. I'm very lucky. I very
Oh,
very very am
absolutely.
lucky. I know a lot of people do not have that, incredible support system. Um, I know my partner that I've been with for coming up on 3 years, she's very, very, very supportive as well.
Mhm.
She's very hands-on too. She's helped in the 2 music videos that we've done. She's helped in all the promos that we've done. She has a great eye for that kind of stuff. She went to school for a lot of things with fashion, and so
Yeah.
and that's what she currently does. She does like a lot of fashion work and stuff. So it's very, for me, it's very like having people surround you, you kind of have to be surrounded by people like that in general. So like, I just really, it's cool. I've revolved my life around this, for 8 years now,
Right.
and I'm just going to keep doing that. I think that's the way you have to, is your friends have to be just as supportive, and you just have to keep it kind of close to your heart, because if not,
Yeah.
it's not going to work out. And I think about that too with like, people think about like putting all your eggs in one basket as being like a
Mhm.
bad thing, but it's really not. Life is short, but it's also very long. And if you decide
Yeah.
tomorrow that you don't want to do something and you have the means, of course, you could do it, and yes, some people are very lucky, like myself, where I can focus on the band basically full time. I don't work a job. I
Mhm.
just do band. I do band, 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 and I'm very busy because we have lots of things going on. But at the same time, um, it gets stressful. It gets very hectic. We're fighting for tours. We're trying really hard to go on tour,
Yeah.
but it just takes time, and but it's getting there. I think more than ever, our band is the biggest it's ever been. And
Mhm.
that's because of awesome people like you and everybody else in Discord and all of our I hate using the word fan, everybody that's on TikTok and everything else. Those
Yeah.
things matter so, so much.
Absolutely.
Everybody that follows us on Spotify, and all that kind of stuff, like those things matter so much.
For sure.
And it's so important. And that's how you're gonna, make your band be the biggest band in the world, is by doing those things and treating people with respect. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. I totally get that though, but I'm like, what's a dream I can do? Oh, I can message Lee and see if he'll do an interview. That'd work.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right. All right. Have you ever like been ready to play a show and like something just crazy happens and like you had to cut your set short or something? Or
Oh yeah, we've had a few of those. There was one time that we played in right on the border of Texas and Mexico. There's El Paso, right?
Mhm.
Awesome city. We've played there a good bit of times. We have some of our most diehard fans live right in there, and we were out actually on tour with this band called Alisana, and they do extremely well in South America. So kids like come over from Mexico just to go to their shows and stuff. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, the show was running so far behind that we could only play 2 songs.
Oh
Well,
no.
people were so hyped on us that they kept being like, no, one more song, one more song, one more song. And finally they like let us have one more song, which is great. But it was just like our normal set was normally like 30 minutes, and only
Right.
getting to play 20 2 songs is like, whatever.
10 minutes. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
But you kind of show has to go on. But yeah, there's definitely been, oh my God, there's been times where our whole like backing track system has gone out. So we'll just like have to play. And especially the older songs had a lot of like strings and stuff like that in it.
Right.
In like whole parts where it had string parts and stuff. And there was no way. So it would just be dead silent. Or our guitar player would try and be like, okay, it's something like that, like just
Yeah.
play whatever you could, So yeah, there's always those, I've fallen off stages multiple
Oh,
times. There's
shit.
also, I think the craziest playing show story is we were in South Georgia, rinky dink town, literally like called Brunswick, Georgia,
Hmm.
small ass spot. We were actually at a diner. It was called the Franken Diner. So it was like a horror themed diner, but it was the worst horror. Like it was like you went to like Michael's and bought
Mhm.
all the decorations from there and just put it in like a Denny's, right? So it was absolutely horrible. But it was a fun show. except for one thing. There was this guy hardcore dancing, like moshing on some kids, like literally like 16-year-olds that we had there, like wanting to like watch us play and sing along, and they were in the front, and this guy just like kept punching him, like this older dude. Like
Oh
he was
no.
probably in his like mid-20s, late 20s, right? And I said something 3 times over the mic. Finally, I'm like, dude, you need to stop. And I like put my hand up to like push him away. And he comes and he attacks me and he like punches me in the
What?
face. Oh yeah, it was like a whole thing in the middle of our set. And
Oh my god.
literally my whole band like gets behind me and basically we destroy this guy, like literally. I mean, I'm not joking. Like the bass player took his bass off and smacked him over, like
Oh my
literally it was like a
god.
whole thing. It was a whole thing. It was
That's
great.
insane.
It was great.
That
I
is
of course then had a very messed up eye. I had to go because we were on tour for a whole nother week, and so I basically couldn't see out of this eye, and I was just like, oh, okay. But it was a great story. Good story.
That's crazy.
I told you,
Alright,
I've been doing this for so long, like at this
yeah.
point, I've got stories, so.
No, for sure. All right. One thing I did promise one of my fans.
Okay.
She was the first one to correctly guess that you were coming on. So just give a shout out to Melinda.
Melinda?
Yep.
Melinda, I guess you can read minds. So thank you so much for guessing that I was gonna come back or that I'm coming here, but I think I should come back sometime too.
Oh, absolutely. This has been a
I
fucking
think maybe
blast.
after we release another song or two, I'll come back as well.
Yes. That would be awesome. All right. All right. Last thing is is there anything else we should talk about before we wrap it up?
Listen, we've got something cool happening in June.
Okay.
We'll have some shows. We'll have more devotion ceremonies this year. We're planning a bunch of different things, especially in the fall and in the summertime. But we are teaming up with a charity to release a song with that charity.
Oh
In
wow.
honor of that charity. So it's really cool. It's something very different too. It's our take off of a certain song. So it's different. It's something very different. So
I can't wait for that. That's gonna be great.
yes. So maybe I'll come back and we could talk all about it. So
Yes, please. All right. Thank you so much, Lee.
of course, it was great.
Oh, and there's the fan. She's in there good. Can't wait for you to get back
Yes.
to Ohio or Michigan.
Yes, Ohio, Michigan. Listen, I want to come back to Ohio, Michigan. We're trying so hard. I promise. We're trying. It just has to be the right time, right place. So my guess is in June and July, we will be out on the road full time again. So it will be a big whole thing. So
Fingers crossed for East Coast, because I really got to come see you guys.
oh, it will be. We'll it's gonna be. We're gonna try and do the whole U.S. before the end of the
Yes.
year. So we're I think in the fall we're gonna do a big long like 8-week tour. And
Sweet.
then but during the summer I think we're gonna do about a 2-3 week long tour. So
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it, and thank you so much for joining me. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, don't go anywhere. Everyone, make sure you tune in about half an hour or so. I am talking to Brian from the Goth Sickles. It's going to be great. Have a great afternoon if you don't tune in for that. Bye, everybody.
Bye. You better tune in.